My sister-in-law is a stunning flight attendant. On the day I drove her to work, she quietly turned to me and said, "Sarah, the fourth drawer in my brother's nightstand is hiding a secret. Do you have the guts to open it?" I went home, opened it, and in a split second I was paralyzed. I had been married to Kevin for 3 years. To the outside world, those 3 years looked like a blessing. Kevin was a regional sales manager for a medical device company in Chicago. He was well-spoken, attentive to our home, and always made sure I never felt slighted during Thanksgiving or Christmas with either side of the family. I was just a regular office worker commuting downtown in the morning, cooking dinner in the race evening, cleaning the house on weekends, and occasionally visiting our parents with my husband. Our life wasn't insanely wealthy, but it was smooth, comfortable, and stable, enough to make a woman like me believe I had anchored my ship in the right harbor. That morning, Kevin had left early for a business trip to Denver. Before heading to O'Hare, he leaned down, kissed my forehead, and whispered, "Sleep a little. Longer. Don't forget to eat a good breakfast." That night, he called, lying. Under the covers, still half asleep, I heard his gentle voice and my heart melted. I used to think that a man who remembered to say such small, caring things could never be cruel. Sometimes women don't need grand gestures. A timely word of affection is enough to carry us through ordinary days. At nearly 10 a.m., Vicky called. Vicky was Kevin's younger sister by 5 years, a flight attendant. She was beautiful in a way that proved she knew she was beautiful. Flawless skin, hair that always smelled of expensive salon shampoo, and a walk that barely seemed to touch the ground. In her family, she was the pampered youngest child. Her parents adored her, and so did Kevin. Whenever Vicky came over, her brother would drop his dinner just to drive out and buy her favorite iced matcha latte. I didn't hate Vicky, but there was always a distance between us. She politely called me Sarah, occasionally bought me a lipstick or a small bottle of perfume from duty-free. But in her eyes, there was always something probing and aloof. It was as if I were an outsider who had walked into a house that already had its own established order. "Hey, Sarah, are you busy? Can you drop me at the airport?" My Uber canceled on me. I checked the clock. It was Saturday, I didn't have to work, so I agreed. 2 minutes later, Vicky was sitting in the passenger seat of my SUV, wearing her navy blue flight attendant uniform, a silk scarf around her neck, her lips painted a soft red. The late morning sun filtered through the windshield, making her features look even sharper. During the drive down the I-90 to O'Hare, Vicky made small talk about work, and I responded with polite pleasantries. The atmosphere wasn't tense, but it wasn't warm either. As I slowed down approaching the departure terminal, Vicky suddenly went silent. She looked out the window, tapping her fingers lightly on her phone. Then she spoke, very softly. "Sarah." I glanced over. "Yeah, what's up?" Vicky didn't look at me right away. She pursed her lips as if weighing whether she should say something forbidden. Only when the car came to a complete stop at the drop-off lane did she unbuckle her seatbelt, though she didn't rush to get out. She leaned toward me, her voice dropping so low it was almost swallowed by the traffic outside. "The fourth drawer in the nightstand on Kevin's side of the bed. There's a secret. Do you have the guts to open it?" I thought I misheard her. "What did you say?" Vicky looked straight into my eyes. That look was strange, not entirely pitying, not exactly provocative. It was the look of someone who knew a storm was about to break over someone else's head. My heart skipped a beat. My hands instinctively tightened on the steering wheel. "What secret?" Vicky shook her head. She opened the door, pulled her carry-on out, and right before shutting the door, she left me with one last sentence. "I can't say it, but if you keep living completely in the dark, I feel sorry for you." The door slammed shut. Vicky wheeled her suitcase into the terminal, her posture perfectly straight, her uniform skirt fluttering in the Chicago wind. I sat, frozen in the car. Someone honked behind me, but my ears were ringing. I just watched Vicky's silhouette until she disappeared into the crowd. The fourth drawer, Kevin's nightstand. It was a walnut nightstand Kevin had bought before we got married. 4 drawers. The top 3 I opened occasionally to grab cold medicine, charging cables, or random receipts. But the 4th drawer was always locked. Kevin once told me it held old confidential company contracts that he couldn't leave lying around. I believed him. I believed everything he said. But people believe the floor beneath their feet is solid until someone whispers that the foundation rotted away a long time ago. Driving home, my mind was a tangled mess. I scolded myself for being paranoid. Maybe Vicky just wanted to test me. Maybe my beautiful sister-in-law never truly accepted me and purposely planted a thorn in my mind. But the more I tried to reassure myself, the more I remembered Kevin's recent behaviors. He had changed. His phone passcode. He frequently went out to the balcony late at night to take calls. There were nights he claimed to be working late, and his shirt carried a faint, unfamiliar scent of perfume, not overpowering, but enough for a wife to notice. When I got home, I stood in front of the bedroom door for a long time. The house was as quiet as every other day. His morning coffee mug was still on the kitchen island. His dress shirt from the morning was tossed in the hamper. Everything was heartbreakingly familiar. I walked over to the nightstand, crouched down, and pulled at the 4th drawer. Locked. I started searching for the key. First in his coat pockets, then his desk, drawers, his watch box, his document safe. Finally, inside an old leather wallet he rarely used, hidden at the bottom of the closet, I found a small brass key. It felt ice cold in my palm. There are moments in life when you know with absolute certainty that just one more motion will change everything forever. I sat next to the nightstand, listening to my own racing heartbeat, asking myself, what if it really is just paperwork? I'll become the ugly, suspicious wife. But what if it's not? What have the last 3 years of my life been? I inserted the key. A soft click echoed in the room. The drawer opened. On top was a life insurance folder. I pulled it out. The policyholder was Kevin. The insured person was me. The coverage amount was $500,000. The beneficiaries were Kevin and his parents. The contract was signed less than 2 months after our wedding. My hands trembled. I told myself it was normal for spouses to buy life insurance for each other. But why didn't I know about it? Why was I the one insured, but if something happened to me, my own parents weren't listed? Why was there no discussion with me? Beneath the folder was a brown envelope. I opened it, and a stack of photos slid out. The first one dropped to the floor. It was Kevin with his arm around a woman on a beach. He was smiling so brightly, a smile I rarely saw after our wedding. The woman had long hair, an oval face, sad eyes, and a slender figure. The back of late. The photo was dated 5 years ago. I flipped through the rest. Photos of them eating ramen in a tiny apartment. Photos of them wearing raincoats under an awning. A photo of Kevin giving her a piggyback ride on a street covered in autumn leaves. In every picture, he looked at her with a tenderness that physically hurt to see, a look I thought belonged only to me. Beneath the photos were a few old letters. The top one was written in a soft, cursive script. Kevin, today marks 365 days since we parted. I still haven't learned how to forget you. I couldn't read anymore. My throat constricted. The woman's name was Mia. In the letter, she called Kevin the love of her youth. The letter was dated just 3 months before my wedding to Kevin. I slumped onto the floor. Every beautiful memory suddenly became grotesquely distorted. On our wedding day, Kevin held my hand and said he would give me a peaceful home. On our wedding night, he held me for a long time, whispering, "Thank you for coming into my life." It turned out that, even then, the silhouette of another woman remained intact in his heart. I thought I had hit rock bottom of my pain, until my fingers brushed against a small velvet box tucked deep in the back of the drawer. I opened it. Inside was a pair of wedding bands. The inside of the men's ring was engraved with Kevin. The inside of the women's ring was engraved with Mia. I stared at those rings for a very long time, so long that I didn't realize. Tears were dripping onto the back of my hand. My wedding ring with Kevin was just a plain, simple band. He had told me it was bought with all his savings, the best he could give me at the time. I had loved him more for saying that. Yet, in this locked drawer, there was a more beautiful, intricate pair of rings, clearly prepared for a different life with a different woman. I slipped the women's ring onto my finger. It was almost a full size too loose for my ring finger. It wasn't mine. It was never mine. My phone buzzed. The screen lit up with Kevin's name. Seeing hubby flashing on, the screen made my blood run cold. I wiped my tears, took a deep breath, and answered, "Hey, Sarah, I just got to the hotel. Have you eaten?" His voice was as gentle as always. I looked at the photos, the letters, the rings, and the life insurance policy, scattered in front of me. My throat hurt so much that forcing out a single word was a struggle. I ate. "What's wrong with your voice? Are you tired?" "Just woke up from a nap." Kevin paused, then chuckled softly. "Okay, get some rest. I'll bring you something nice when I fly back tomorrow." "Kevin." "Yeah? Drive safe." I hung up before he could say, "I love you." That phrase used to be sweet. Now it felt like a knife wrapped in soft silk. That afternoon, I put everything exactly back where I found it, locked the drawer, and hid the key in the leather wallet as if nothing had happened. Then I went into the bathroom, turned the shower to cold, and let the icy water cascade over my shoulders. I didn't cry anymore. Perhaps when pain exceeds your capacity to endure it, tears become redundant. In the mirror, the woman looking back at me was still Sarah, the same face, the same hair, but the eyes were different. I knew from that moment on, my marriage was no longer the safe haven I believed it to be. It was a house with locked doors, and I had just opened the first one. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay on the edge of the bed, my back turned to Kevin's empty side, the place where he usually slept, where he'd wrap his arm, tuck around my waist after a long day. The room was so quiet I could hear the hum of the HVAC unit. I could hear the dry ticking of the clock in the living room. Before, whenever Kevin traveled, the house felt too big. My heart felt a little empty, and I'd even hug his pillow to catch a trace of his cologne. But that night, in the exact same house, on the exact same bed, I felt like I was lying. In a foreign place, surrounded by objects that were once familiar but had suddenly become terrifying. The nightstand sat there, silent under the dim yellow light. The fourth drawer was securely locked. Everything looked the same, but inside me, a massive foundation had collapsed. Some secrets don't need to make a sound to split a one house in two. I closed my eyes, but the images flashed behind my eyelids. Kevin next to Mia. Kevin looking at Mia with that incredibly warm gaze. The wedding rings engraved with a name that wasn't mine. And the life insurance policy with my name on the raid line. But Kevin and his parents as the beneficiaries. I didn't dare jump to the cruelest conclusion. I didn't want to turn my husband into a monster over a piece of paper. But when a woman is violently woken from the dream of her marriage, her intuition becomes frighteningly sharp. I understood this wasn't simply about a man holding on to mementos of an ex. If it was just nostalgia, why lock it up? If it was entirely in the past, why did Vicky know? And if Vicky knew, how many other people in his family knew? Was I the only one walking around blindfolded? Around dawn, I sat up and poured a glass of warm water. The hand holding a glass was still trembling. I opened my phone, stared at my contacts, and dialed. Chloe. Chloe had been my best friend since college. She was a lifestyle journalist for Boxed, a major Chicago publication, not the loud type, but incredibly level-headed. She always saw things a step ahead of everyone else. The phone rang 4 times before she picked up, her voice groggy. "Sarah? It's so early. Is something wrong?" Just hearing her voice made my throat constrict. I tried to say something normal, but all that came out was, "Chloe, I don't think I'm okay." Silence on the other end. Chloe woke up instantly. "Where are you?" "Home." "Is Kevin there?" "No. Business trip." Chloe lowered her voice. "Talk to me, nice and slow." I told her everything. From Vicky's whisper at O'Hare, the brass key, the fourth drawer, the insurance policy, the photos, the letters, down to the rings. I spoke without crying, but the calmer I got, the more I felt like a doctor, reading my own terminal chart. When I finished, Chloe was silent for a long time. I knew she wasn't quiet, because she had nothing to say. She was trying to anchor me so I wouldn't fall. Deeper. Finally, she spoke. Sarah, first things first, do not blow this up yet. I closed my eyes. I know, but I'm scared I'm going to lose my mind. You have to hold it together. You don't know the whole truth yet. If you confront Kevin now, he'll just say it's ancient history, accuse you of invading his privacy, and scrub whatever else he's hiding. You'll be heartbroken and left with zero leverage. I bit my lip hard enough to feel pain. So what do I do? Did you take pictures of everything? Yes. Everything's in a hidden folder on my phone. Not good enough. Send me a copy right now. Upload them to a separate cloud. Drive. Change your passwords, and do not use a shared laptop. Starting today, you need to audit your household finances. Savings, mortgage, car titles, insurance, bank accounts. Don't wait until the roof caves in to realize your roof caves in's name isn't on anything. I looked around the house. The dining table, the fridge, the beige sectional I picked out after our wedding. Everything had our fingerprints on it. But as Chloe asked, I realized with a jolt how much I actually didn't know. Kevin bought this condo before we got married. We paid the mortgage together afterward. The deed was in his name. He managed the savings. Every month, I transferred my portion of the bills into a joint account, but the primary cards and accounts were controlled by him. He once told me, "Let the man handle the heavy lifting with the finances. I just want you to live comfortably and stress-free." Back then, I thought it was sweet. Now I realize that sometimes too much sweetness is just a way to make you drop your guard. Chloe added, and about Vicky, watch your back. Just because she tipped you off doesn't mean she's on your side. She might have her own agenda. I thought the same, I whispered. The way she looked at me at the airport. It was off. Yeah. Don't trust anyone entirely, even the ones acting like your allies. But don't treat everyone like an enemy yet either. You need a clear head to observe. By the time we hung up, the sun was fully up. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting pale yellow stripes across the hardwood floor. I washed my face, put on light makeup, and threw on a simple dress like any other day. Looking in the mirror, I practiced smiling. It looked distorted at first, but slowly softened. I told myself, Sarah, today you have to live as if you know nothing. Not because you are weak, but because you need time. Around 8 a.m., my mother-in-law, Eleanor, called. Her voice was as cheerful as always. Morning, Sarah. Did Kevin leave for his trip? Yes. He flew out yesterday. He'll be back tomorrow night, Eleanor. Oh, good. If you're free this afternoon, come over for dinner. Robert is grilling some steaks, and I'm making your favorite mashed potatoes. Call Vicky. If you can. I think she flew back early. I froze at Vicky's name but answered smoothly. Sure, let me see how work goes. I'll try to swing by. Eleanor chuckled. Yes, please do. The women in this family need to stick together. I always feel like you and Vicky are a bit too formal with each other. She's young, just humor her sometimes. I looked at my reflection, feeling cold. I know, Eleanor. After hanging up, I didn't go to the office. I called in sick, claiming a migraine. I needed time to go through the files in the house. I opened the filing cabinet in Kevin's home office. It wasn't locked, probably because I had never once shown interest in looking through it. I found our mortgage statements, HOA fees, car insurance, and his tax returns. I photographed everything, meticulously putting them back exactly as I found them. The more I looked, the more I realized how blindly trusting I had been. After 3 years of marriage, I knew Kevin loved his steak medium rare. I knew his shoulder ached when it rained. I knew exactly which tie he wore for big client pitches. But I didn't know the exact balance of our joint account, how much principal was left on the condo, or what insurance policies he held in his name. Around noon, my phone pinged. A text from Kevin. You awake? Back-to-back meetings all morning. Remember to eat, don't just survive on coffee. I stared at the words for a long time before typing back. I know. Focus on work, he replied with a little heart emoji. Looking at that tiny pixelated heart, I tasted something bitter in my mouth. Maybe the most painful thing isn't when someone turns cold, but when they remain incredibly gentle while hiding a Proserpina, locked room meant for someone else behind that gentleness. That evening, I went to my in-laws' house in Oak Park, not because I wanted to eat, but because I needed to observe, to listen, to see if their ordinary conversations hid any missing puzzle pieces. Robert, my father-in-law, was reading the Tribune in the living room. He nodded when he saw me. Kevin's away. Must be boring at the condo. Good you came over. I greeted him and went into the kitchen. Eleanor handed me some vegetables too. Wash, chatting away about the neighbors, grocery prices, and how Vicky was losing weight from flying too much. I listened, giving polite nods. When she brought up Kevin, I faked a casual smile. Eleanor, Kevin had a lot of girls chasing him back in the day, didn't he? Eleanor's hands paused, a microscopic hesitation, but visible if you were looking for it. Why do you ask that out of the blue? Oh, nothing. I was organizing some stuff yesterday and found some old college photos of him. He looked so young, it just made me wonder. She went back to chopping. Kevin was always a good, smart boy. It's normal that girls liked him. Was he ever really deeply in love with someone? Eleanor skipped a beat before answering. There was a girl named Mia. A long time ago. They dated for a few years, but it didn't work out, so they broke up. Everyone has a past, Sarah. Don't overthink it. I focused on the vegetables, keeping my voice steady. How is she doing now? I heard she moved out of state. I don't really know. Anyway, why talk about the past? As long as you and Kevin are happy, that's what matters. What's important now is for you two to have a baby soon. The house needs some life. I didn't press further, but I knew. Eleanor wasn't clueless about Mia. She just chose to fold that story up like an old tablecloth and shove it to the back of Loken Ath, the closet, hoping the woman who came after me would never unfold it. Vicky didn't show up for dinner. Eleanor called her, and Vicky claimed she had a last-minute shift. Before they hung up, I faintly heard Vicky's voice through the speaker. You guys go ahead. I'll stop by Kevin and Sarah's tomorrow. Holding my fork, my grip tightened. Kevin was coming home tomorrow. Vicky was coming over tomorrow. The play inside my little house was about to enter its next act. When I got home that night, I received a text from an unknown number. It was just one line. Sarah, if you've already opened the drawer, don't just look at what's inside. Look at the person holding the key. I stood frozen in the middle of the living room. I didn't need to ask to know. The sender was Vicky. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the Chicago skyline was lit up. The warm, yellow squares of light from the high-rises opposite ours looked like dozens of other families eating, laughing, believing the person sleeping next to them was their safest harbor. I looked at the text again. Just one short sentence, but it felt like someone dragging a fingernail over a scab. Look at the person holding the key. The person holding the key was Kevin, but what was Vicky implying? I sat down on the sofa, wrapping my hands around a cold mug of water. Since finding the drawer, I thought the most agonizing part was that Kevin still kept Mia in his heart, but now I started to sense something much larger, colder, and harder too. Name lurking behind it. If this were just about a man who couldn't forget his ex, Vicky wouldn't need to go to these lengths. She wouldn't send cryptic warnings. I wanted to call her back to demand answers, but I stopped myself. With someone like Vicky, the more you ask, the more control she has. I needed to observe rather than react. Around 10 p.m., Kevin FaceTimed me. His face appeared on the screen, sporting, his familiar smile. The bright hotel room was behind him. Wifey, you're not asleep yet? I adjusted my voice to sound completely normal. Not yet. Watching Netflix. Miss me? That question used to make me laugh. I used to tease him, you're gone for 2 days and act like it's been a month. And Kevin would laugh and say, I'm just addicted to my wife. Those memories returned like a cruel joke. I stared at the man on the screen, trying to figure out what was real and what was a performance. Could someone so tender truly harbor such a cold secret? I do, I answered shortly. Kevin propped himself up on his elbow, looking closely at the camera. You're acting weird. Since yesterday, you look like you're hiding something from me. My chest tightened, but my expression didn't waver. Just tired, I guess. Stress at work? No. Did my mom bring up the baby thing again and upset you? I paused. Kevin sighed. I know she pressures you about it, but like I said, we'll take our time. I don't want you stressing. If I heard this a week ago, I would have felt deeply loved. But after everything I'd seen, it terrified me. What was truly going on inside the head of a man who was this articulate and this guarded? Yeah, I simply replied. Kevin paused, then smiled softly. I'll be back tomorrow. Let's go out for a nice dinner. We haven't had a real date night in a while. Vicky said she's coming over tomorrow. Oh, right. He furrowed his brows as if just remembering. She's been acting so weird lately. Super secretive. I asked her what's going on, but she won't. Sigh. I looked straight into the camera. You think she's acting strange? I don't know. Kevin pulled at his collar, his voice dropping. It feels like she's hiding something from the whole family. I instantly remembered Vicky's eyes at O'Hare and the text message. The vague dread in my stomach grew heavier. We hung up near 11. I turned off my phone and sat in the dark. As I was getting ready for bed, I remembered something. While going through the filing cabinet, that afternoon I had seen an old blue medical folder shoved at the very bottom. I was too rushed to open it then. A terrible intuition made me stand up. I turned on the desk lamp and sat down. The blue folder was pressed flat against the back of the drawer, its edges worn. The logo belonged to a well-known private clinic in the Gold Coast. The patient name was Kevin. I opened it. It was a physical exam report from nearly 2 years ago. I skimmed. Past blood pressure, cholesterol, liver function. Then my eyes stopped on a summary line. Low sperm motility and count. Fertility. Significantly compromised. I read it again, feeling my blood turn to ice. Below it, the doctor's notes. Recommended aggressive, specialized treatments if conception was desired. I sat completely paralyzed. For 2 years, the issue of having a baby had been my biggest source of guilt. Eleanor made passive-aggressive comments. Friends were having their second or third kids. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, convinced my body was failing us. I had secretly gone to an OB/GYN. My results were perfectly normal. When I told Kevin, he just hugged me and said, "It's fine. If we have kids, great. If not, I just need you." I had been so moved by his grace, but looking at the paper in my hands, I finally understood. The problem was never me. For 2 years, he never told the truth. I didn't cry. Maybe the pain had bypassed tears. I just felt cold, a deep, numbing freeze spreading from my chest to my fingertips. In this marriage, I wasn't just being kept in the dark about an ex-lover. I was actively allowed to live in shame and self-doubt. The next morning, I woke up early. I put the medical file exactly where it belonged and spent extra time on my makeup. I knew I had to face both Kevin and Vicky today, and I couldn't afford to slip up. At 9 a.m., Chloe called. You surviving? Barely, Chloe sighed. I had a buddy do some digging. Something weird popped up. Tell me. For the last 3 months, Kevin has been setting up recurring Zelle transfers to someone named M. Davis. About $2,500 every month. I frowned. Male or female? Does Kevin have a relative named Davis? Not that I found. But $2,500 a month isn't a casual loan, it's consistent, like alimony or support. I remained silent. $2,500 a month. If he was supporting a relative, I should know about it. There's more, Chloe continued. I have a contact at the ad agency where Mia works now. I gripped the phone. And? She was married to a guy 10 years older than her. It was a bad marriage. Abusive. She divorced him 2 months ago and moved back to the Chicago area. Does Kevin know? Highly likely. Because less than 2 weeks after Mia got back, Kevin started having regular contact with her. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the blank wall. The dots were connecting, but the picture they formed was horrifying. Just then, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Vicky. She was wearing a simple white blouse and jeans, her hair in a low ponytail, stripped of her usual heavy makeup. She looked younger, but her eyes were just as unreadable. "You didn't go to work?" "I took PTO." Vicky stepped inside, holding a Whole Foods bag. "Mom told me to bring some fruit." I shut the door and turned to face her. "What is it you want to tell me?" Vicky set the bag on the kitchen island and looked at me. For the first time, since we became sisters-in-law, she dropped her haughty facade. "What did you find?" "How do you know I found anything?" Vicky gave a cynical smile. "Because I know my brother better than you do." My pride stung, but I kept my composure. "Spit it out." Vicky sat on the bar stool. She was quiet for a few seconds before saying, I think he just still loves Mia?" I didn't answer. Vicky stared at me. If it were just a guy hung up on his ex, this would be so much easier. A chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean?" Vicky looked down, her hands tightly clasped. "Have you ever considered that my brother marrying you wasn't about love in the first place?" The air in the room froze. My heart hammered painfully against my ribs. "Vicky," my voice came out hoarse. "What do you know?" She looked up, her eyes red, looking like she was violently torn between speaking and staying silent. At that exact moment, my phone rang. Kevin's name lit up the screen. Simultaneously, Vicky looked at me and blurted out, "Don't blindly trust that life insurance policy." Before I could ask what she meant, the sound of a key turning in the front door echoed through the apartment. Kevin was home early. The turning lock made both of us jump. The thick, tense air of unspoken truths, it was sliced apart by that familiar sound. My heart pounded so hard my chest ached. Vicky immediately stood up, her stressed expression vanishing with a terrifying speed. Kevin walked in, holding his black overnight bag. He was in a light gray dress, shirt, slightly wrinkled from travel. The moment he saw us, he smiled. "Well, look at this. What are my two favorite girls discussing so seriously?" Before I could speak, Vicky beat me to it. "I was just telling Sarah about the time you stole the Thanksgiving pie when we were kids and Mom grounded you." Kevin laughed, bending down to take off his shoes. "You're ridiculous. That was 20 years ago." He walked over to me out of habit and kissed the top of my head. His familiar cologne washed over me, but this time it brought no comfort. My mind was screaming Vicky's words. "Don't blindly trust that life insurance policy." I forced a normal expression. "You're back early." Wrapped things up so I caught an earlier flight. He sat next to me on the sofa, throwing an arm around my shoulder naturally. "Missed you." A week ago I would have smiled. Now I just felt a freezing void in my stomach. This man holding me so gently was hiding secret after secret. Vicky stood up. "I'm heading out. Got a flight to catch later." "Stay for lunch," Kevin offered. "Nah, I don't want to be the third wheel." Vicky smiled, but as she walked past, "Amy!" She shot me a rapid, meaningful glance. She wasn't done talking. The door clicked shut. We were alone. Kevin leaned back against the sofa, exhaling like a man exhausted from the road. Denver was a grind. "Everything go okay?" "Yeah, about to close a massive account." He turned, wrapping his arm around my waist. "But you're still acting weird today." I avoided his eyes. "I'm fine." "No, you're not." He tilted my chin up to look at him. "What are you hiding from?" "Me." For a split second, I wanted to scream. I wanted to drag him into the bedroom, yank open the fourth drawer, and demand to know why he was doing this to me. But instead, I offered a faint smile. "I think I'm just burning out." Kevin studied me, then sighed. "I'm taking you to the doctor tomorrow." I stiffened. "For what?" "You haven't been sleeping, you look pale." He stroked my hair so slowly. "I'm worried about you." Those words stung. A man who could hide his infertility from his wife for 2 years, who could keep an altar to his ex in a locked drawer, could still say, "I'm worried about you" with utter sincerity. I didn't know if he was an Oscar-worthy actor, or if he genuinely loved me, just not enough to be honest. "Okay," I murmured. That evening, Kevin cooked. He made my favorites: grilled salmon, roasted, butternut squash, and garlic asparagus. While we ate, he talked about his clients in Denver, his delayed flight, a drunk guy at the airport bar who thought Kevin was his son. I listened, giving polite laughs. The more he acted like this, the more confused I became. If he didn't love me, why take such meticulous care of me? But if he did, why the lies? Maybe the most terrifying thing in the world isn't pure hatred, but a love that is half true and half fake. It traps you. You can't leave, but you can't stay. After dinner, Kevin went to shower. I was loading the dishwasher when his phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up. The sender was just M. My heart seized. I stood still. From the bathroom, the shower ran steadily. My hand trembled, but I picked up the phone. The text was simple. Did you make it home? No sweet nicknames. No, I miss you. But that brevity was what made it so intimate. It was the shorthand of two people who had been deeply entrenched in each other's lives for a very long time. A chill raced down my spine. Suddenly, another text popped up. I go back for the checkup tomorrow. Please don't forget. Before I could process it, the bathroom door clicked. I slammed the phone down and aggressively scrubbed a plate. Kevin walked out, towel drying his hair, wearing black sweatpants and a t-shirt. He picked up his phone casually. In a CNN fraction of a second, I saw his expression tighten as he read the screen. He immediately locked it and walked up behind me. Let me finish those. It's fine. I dodged him slightly. Almost done. He stood there for a moment. Are you going into the office tomorrow? Yes. I'll pick you up for lunch. Okay. He leaned against the counter, watching me. I didn't dare turn around. I knew if I looked at him for one more second, the dam would break. That night, Kevin held me as we slept, his arm draped over my waist, so familiar. At one point, I heard him sigh softly in his sleep. I stared into the pitch-black darkness, the text repeating in my head. I go back for the checkup. Tomorrow. Who was getting checked? Mia? If it was Mia, what role was Kevin playing in her life? I barely slept. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was Chloe. I carefully slid out of Kevin's grip and went out to the balcony. What's wrong? Her voice was hushed. I had my guy look deeper into Kevin's accounts. My stomach plummeted. And, for over a year, Kevin has been making direct payments to a medical billing department. I gripped the railing. Who for? Not 100% sure, but probably Mia. The cold Chicago wind bit through my pajamas. Chloe, what kind of medical? Billing? A specialized fertility and IVF clinic. The word hit me like a sledgehammer. Fertility. My mind raced back to Kevin's honor and ATO. Medical file. Low sperm motility. Then the text. I go back for the checkup. Tomorrow. Then the fact that he always deflected when I brought up having kids. Everything was aligning into a horrifying narrative. Sarah, Chloe's voice was gravely serious. What do you think they're doing? I don't know, I whispered. Sarah, you need to brace yourself. This might be way bigger than just an NESCO affair. I stood on the balcony long after hanging up. The city was still alive. Thousands of glowing windows representing thousands of lives stacked on top of each other. Some were genuinely happy. Some were lying to each other. And some, like me, were standing in the middle of their marriage feeling like they were lost in a densifo. I went back inside. Kevin was sleeping soundly. He looked so peaceful it was hard to reconcile him with the man keeping these colossal secrets. For the first time in 3 years, I felt terrified of the man I loved. The next morning, as I was getting dressed for work, Kevin came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. Sarah. Yeah? If one day I let you down. He hesitated. Would you forgive me? I looked at us in the mirror. Kevin wasn't smiling. He looked genuinely exhausted, his eyes darker than usual. My heart practically stopped. Did you do something to need forgiving? I asked softly. He gave a strained smile. Just asking. I turned around to face him. If it's something small, yes. If it destroys my grade, trust. It would be hard. Kevin flinched. He looked at me for a long time, then pulled me tightly against his chest. I won't hurt you. I closed my eyes. Words are sweet when you believe them. When the trust is gone, they just feel like a cheap tarp thrown over a rotting corpse. He drove me to work. He played our usual Spotify playlist, asked what I wanted for dinner, and wondered if we should visit my parents this weekend. It was so agonizingly normal. When he dropped me off, he held my hand. Don't overthink things today, okay? You've been zoning out. If something's bothering you, tell me. I almost laughed. The man hiding a double life was telling me not to bottle things up. I know, I said. I couldn't focus at work. The spreadsheets blurred. Chloe's words echoed. This might be way bigger than an affair. Around noon, Chloe texted me an address. It was a private fertility center up in Evanston. Confirmed. Kevin has brought Mia here multiple times. Right then, Kevin texted. I'm downstairs. Let's get lunch. I took deep breaths, grabbed my purse, and went down. He was waiting in his crisp white shirt, holding my favorite iced latte. We went to a nice bistro near the river. He talked endlessly about work, clearly trying to lighten my mood, but I noticed his phone kept lighting up. Even though it was face down, I saw M pop up repeatedly. He ignored it, but his jaw tightened every time. After the fourth buzz, I put my fork down. Are you going to answer that? Huh? He quickly silenced it. Just a needy client. What kind of client calls repeatedly during a lunch hour? He was momentarily caught off guard, but recovered smoothly. The demanding, kind. Anyway, my company is hosting a gala next month. I want you to come with me. I paused. Kevin usually kept me away from corporate events, claiming office politics were toxic. Was he overcompensating now to make me feel secure? Sure. I nodded. After lunch, he dropped me back at my office and drove off. As soon as his car turned the corner, I hailed a cab and gave the driver the Evanston address. Chloe. The clinic was in a discreet, high-end brick building. No flashy signs, just advanced reproductive medicine. I stood across the street feeling like there was an anvil on my chest. Around 2 p.m., a familiar black SUV pulled up. Kevin. I froze. He stepped out quickly and opened the passenger door. Mia. Even from a distance, I recognized her from the photos. She looked thinner in person, wearing a simple beige cardigan. She wasn't aggressively beautiful, but she had a fragile aura that made people want to protect her. Kevin carefully held her, arm to help her out of the SUV. A tiny gesture, but it shattered my heart. They walked inside together. I sat back in the cab. My hands were bone white. You getting out, miss? The driver asked. No. Please wait. 40 minutes later, they emerged. Mia looked absolutely drained. Kevin was holding a pharmacy bag. She kept her head down. Just before she got into the rallying relay car, she broke down in tears. I watched Kevin pull her into a hug. It wasn't a passionate, adulterous embrace. It looked like desperate, agonizing comfort. Through the cracked window of the cab, I faintly heard Kevin. It's okay. I have other options. Mia shook her head frantically. I'm so tired, Kevin. I sat there, paralyzed. Something was wrong. If they were having a torrid affair, they wouldn't be crying outside an IVF clinic. Why did Kevin look less like a cheating lover and more like a man carrying an unbearable burden? Instead of going back to work, I took the cab straight to Chloe's apartment. What did you see? She asked immediately. I told her. Chloe paced the room. You're right. That doesn't look like an affair. What if she's sick? I asked. With what? Infertility? Why would Kevin be involved? Chloe stopped pacing. Unless the baby has something to do with Kevin. The room went dead silent. A horrifying realization crawled up my throat. I remembered Kevin's medical file. Low sperm count. I remembered his avoidance of having kids with me. I remembered the life insurance policy leaving me out. I remembered Vicky's text. Look at the person holding the key. The secret wasn't the photos. The secret was Kevin himself. My phone rang violently. Eleanor. Sarah. Her voice was panicked. Where are you? Get to Northwestern Memorial. Right now. What happened? Vicky collapsed at the airport. I rushed out. The Chicago afternoon traffic was brutal, but my mind was worse. Everything was a tangled knot. I got to the ER and found Eleanor pacing the hallway. She looked disheveled. "She's awake," Eleanor said, grabbing my arm. "The doctor said it's exhaustion and severely low blood pressure. She's been so stressed lately, refusing to talk to us." "Where's Kevin?" "Downstairs doing the admission paperwork." A moment later, Kevin jogged down the hall. His shirt was a mess, holding a blanked stack of forms. He saw me and stopped. "You came straight here?" I nodded, staring at his face. He looked so incredibly worn down. He was carrying the weight of two worlds, and they were both crushing him. "Vicky's fine. Don't worry," he said softly. He walked into her room and I followed. Vicky was lying there, an IV in her arm, her glamorous aura completely gone. Eleanor sat by her bed, scolding her, gently through tears. "You scared us to death. If something is bothering you, tell us. Don't torture yourself." Vicky turned her head away. "I'm just tired, Mom." Kevin stood at the foot of the bed. "What is really going on with you, Vic?" Vicky looked at her brother. "I told you, I'm just tired. I don't like it when you hide things from the family," Kevin said sternly. Vicky's eyes flickered. She stared at Kevin for a long time, then suddenly snapped, "What if you're hiding things from the family?" The room went completely silent. I saw Kevin's knuckles turn white. "What are you talking about?" Kevin demanded. Vicky looked at me, then at Kevin. "Nothing." She pulled the hospital blanket up. "I want to sleep." Kevin's phone buzzed. Just a glance at the screen and his face changed. It was M. He quickly stepped out into the hallway. As soon as he left, Vicky let out a dry, bitter laugh. "You see that?" "See what?" I asked. "He can't let it go." "Vicky, what do you know?" I pleaded. She stared at the ceiling. "I know more than you think." "Then tell me." She closed her eyes. "Because knowing the truth doesn't always set you free, Sarah." The doctor came in shortly after. He said Vicky was physically stable but showing severe signs of clinical anxiety and depressive burnout. He advised the family to monitor her mental health. Eleanor cried. They discharged Vicky that evening. Kevin drove us all back to Oak Park. The ride was silent. When we arrived at the house, Vicky grabbed my sleeve. "Sarah, come up to my room for a second." Kevin frowned. "You need to rest. I just need 5 minutes." Her voice was devoid of its usual sass. I followed her upstairs. Her room was dark and heavy. She sat on her bed, opened her nightstand, and pulled out a manila envelope. She handed it to me. "What is this?" I asked. "Photos. Things you should have seen a long time ago." My hands shook as I opened it. It was a photo of Kevin standing outside a hospital. Next to him was Mia. And in Mia's arms was a newborn baby. I felt all the blood drain from my face. The baby. My voice cracked. "Whose is it?" Vicky looked at me with red eyes. "Who do you think?" I crushed the edge of the photo. "I don't want to play guessing games, Vicky." She took a shaky breath. "His name is Ben. Is he Kevin's?" "No one knows for sure." My brain felt like it was short-circuiting. I had prepared myself for infidelity, for an emotional affair. But a child? "Explain, now." Vicky rubbed her face. "When Kevin and Mia were dating years ago, they were going to get married. Mom hated Mia because she came from a really poor, messed-up family, but Kevin loved her. Then Mia got into a horrible accident. The doctors told her she'd likely never be able to have kids. I stared at her. Kevin still wanted to marry her. But right then, Dad got sick. The medical bills drained the family. Kevin's business took a hit. Mia, she backed out. She walked away so Kevin wouldn't have to carry her burdens on top of his families. And the baby? 2 years later, Mia married a guy. It was awful. He was a drunk, beat her up. Then she got pregnant. Vicky looked at me. But by then, she and Kevin had reconnected. My chest tightened. The husband didn't believe the kid was his. He kicked her out. When I found out, I asked Kevin. He swore nothing happened between them while she was married. He said she was already pregnant when they ran into each other again. I laughed. a harsh, ugly sound. And he just stepped up to play savior? Kevin paid for her medical bills. He was there when Ben was born. Vicky's voice broke. He pays for the kid's life. So the $2,500 a month, I whispered. Yes. Why didn't he just tell me? Vicky looked at me with immense pity. Do you think he dared to? Do you know how hard he tried to get over her? He drank himself into the ER. Then he met you. You were his chance at a normal life. So I was just a replacement. No, he loves you. But Kevin has a savior complex. He thinks he owes Mia for abandoning her when she was broken. A knock on the door made us jump. It was Kevin. You guys done? Let her rest, Sarah. Vicky wiped her eyes. Don't tell him I told you. I walked downstairs. Eleanor was cutting fruit in the kitchen. Kevin was standing by the back patio door, smoking. He rarely smoked. Let's go home, he said when he saw me. The drive to our apartment was silent. When we hit a red light, Kevin finally spoke. Do you think I'm a terrible person? Do you want the truth? Yes. I don't know anymore. When we got home, I showered first. When I came out, Kevin was sitting on the table section, balcony in the dark, the cherry of his cigarette glowing. Sarah, come sit with me. I stepped out into the chilly night air. He put out the cigarette. There are things I thought I'd take to my grave, he started, his voice rough. But keeping them is making me a coward. What do you want to say? He looked at his hands. Did you ever wonder why I never pushed to have kids? I froze. He looked up, his eyes shining in the dim light. Because I'm the one who can't have them. The wind blew, but I felt frozen to the core. Since when did you know? 6 months before we got married. You knew. And you let me take the blame? You let me cry myself to sleep, thinking I was broken? I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix 2 years of psychological torture, Kevin. He buried his face in his hands. When I found out, I almost lost my mind. I'm the only son. My parents' whole identity is tied to having grandkids. It felt like I was stripped of my manhood. I was terrified if I told you, you'd leave. And Mia? He went rigid. When we were dating, she said she didn't care if we had kids. She just wanted me. But when my dad got sick, I couldn't drag her down. Then I met you. And I really, truly wanted to start over. Did you love me? I asked, my voice breaking. He looked at me. Yes. Then why are you still at the fertility clinic with her? Kevin looked at me, shocked. You followed us. Yes. He ran a hand through his hair. Mia wants to keep her current pregnancy. What? She was pregnant again. Not by me. But because of her old injuries, the doctors told her it was a miracle but high risk. I was just driving her to her appointments because she has no one else. And the life insurance policy? He looked down. My parents made me do it. They were terrified that if I died, without an heir, everything I built would go to your family. I let out a breathless, agonizing laugh. Your family is terrifying. You're terrifying. Sarah, I never wanted to hurt you, but you did. You lied about your health. You lied about your money. You lied about your past. You made me the unwitting shield in your tragic love story. I went inside and went to bed. Kevin stayed on the balcony until dawn. At 5 a.m., his phone rang. He answered it, and I heard him say, What? She's bleeding? I'm on my way. He rushed into the bedroom to change. Mia is in the ER, he said, his voice trembling. I sat up. You're going alone? He stopped. Sarah, this is an emergency. I'm your wife. I'm coming with you. We drove to Northwestern Memorial in silence. The city was still gray and sleepy. When we got to the maternity ward, a nurse recognized him. Are you the emergency contact for Mia? Yes. How is she? She's stable, but she lost the baby. Kevin turned pale. He stood frozen. The nurse told him he could go in. He looked at me torn. I'm coming, I said. Mia was in a hospital bed, looking like a ghost. Next to her, curled up in a chair, was a little boy, Ben. He clutched a small backpack, tear stains on his cheeks. Kevin, Mia croaked. Kevin walked over. I'm here. I lost it, she sobbed. I'm sorry. It's okay. Don't talk. Kevin stroked her hair. It was a gesture of deep, tragic familiarity. I stood in the corner. I was the wife, but in this room I was the intruder. Later, the doctor pulled Kevin out. I was left alone with Mia and Ben. Mia looked at me. You're Sarah. Yes. I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize to me. He never cheated on you, Mia whispered. We never crossed that line after you got married. But I had no one else. My ex-husband beat me. Ben has a heart. Murmur. Kevin is a good man, but his goodness is ruining you. Is Ben his? I asked. Mia shook her head. No. But Kevin wishes he was. She reached into her hospital bag and pulled out the small velvet box. The rings. I told him to get rid of these years ago. Take them. I don't want to be the ghost in your marriage anymore. Divorce him, Sarah. He's drowning in guilt, and he'll drag you down with him. My phone vibrated. It was Chloe. I stepped out into the hall. Sarah, I found out why Mia left him years ago. Why? Eleanor paid her off. Your mother-in-law gave Mia a check to leave Kevin, because Mia couldn't have kids. I leaned against the cold hospital wall. My mother-in-law, who smiled at me every Sunday, had orchestrated this entire tragedy to protect her son's bloodline, only to end up with a son who was infertile anyway. I walked back into the room. Kevin was giving Ben a juice box. He looked like a father. I left the hospital. I took an Uber to Oak Park. Eleanor opened the door. Sarah? Where's Kevin? At the hospital. With Mia. Eleanor's face drained of color. I know you paid her off, Eleanor. You bought her out because she was broken. And you brought me in because you thought I could give you grandchildren. And all this time, your own son was the one who couldn't. Eleanor collapsed into a chair, bursting into tears. I just wanted him to have a normal life. You ruined his life, and you ruined mine. I didn't stay to listen to her apologies. I went home, packed a suitcase, and went to Chloe's apartment. A week later, Kevin and I sat in a lawyer's office in downtown Chicago. There was no screaming, no fighting. He agreed to give me the equity from the condo, returned every dollar I had put into our joint account, and immediately canceled the life insurance policy. When he signed the divorce papers, his hands shook. I was surprisingly calm. When your heart breaks completely, the final snap brings a strange sense of peace. Vicky met me for coffee one last time. I'm sorry for how I did it, she said. You saved me from wasting another decade, I told her. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. I moved into a cozy one-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Square. I bought plants. I took a promotion at work. Some nights, I still reached out for a warm body that wasn't there, but the phantom pain faded day by day. On New Year's Eve, Kevin texted me. I'm in therapy. Mia and Ben moved to Asheville, NC to live with her aunt. I didn't go with them. I need to figure out how to be a man without trying to save everyone. Thank you for loving me. I stared at the text. Then I replied, I hope you find peace. I didn't ask if he still loved her. I didn't care. At a certain point in a woman's life, you realize that the truth, no matter how painful, is the only foundation you can build a life on. I stood on my balcony, looking at the Chicago skyline lighting up for the new year. I had opened the 4th drawer, expecting to lose everything. But in the end, the only thing I found in that drawer was myself. And when a woman knows how to walk away from what hurts her, it's not a tragedy. It's the beginning of her real life.